buying keyword-rich domains is the secret to unlocking huge growth for your law firm? Let's find out. In this episode, we're going to cover the effectiveness of buying keyword-rich domains for your law firm website. Many lawyers are addicted to buying keyword-rich domains, but they don't often fully understand how to utilize them, what the benefits, what the drawbacks are with this practice. We're going to explore when this strategy is effective, when it's not, and give you a better insight as to what SEO strategies actually move the needle so that you can focus on what works. Welcome to another episode of the Optimized Law Firm Podcast. My name is Patrick Carver. I'm the CEO of Constellation Marketing. This podcast is all about helping you run a more profitable and enjoyable law firm. So try to make this very actionable and give you good tips that will hopefully help you in your quest to understand marketing, how it can impact the growth of your business, and ultimately do what we all want, which is generate more profits. Did you know that buying a keyword-rich domain is not a guaranteed ticket to SEO success? Let's talk a little bit about what this practice is. So if you're an attorney and you have a pulse, you've probably done this at some point in your practice. And what I'm talking about is buying these keyword-rich domains. So think if you're a family lawyer in Tuscaloosa, you're going to buy a domain like Family Lawyer Tuscaloosa, Divorce Lawyer Tuscaloosa, stuff like that. And then what I also see commonly, or when folks come to me, is that they say, hey, I've got this whole, arsenal of domains that I've purchased over the years. I've purchased FamilyLawyerTuscaloosa.com, .org, .net. Let's, use them, right? Use them so you can get some SEO success. And the truth is that these alone it's not some sort of magic pill or silver bullet that will help you get success with SEO. The idea of this kind of goes back to Google's algorithm, where they are looking for signals, right? So every part of your website is going to give a signal. And one of those that does carry a certain amount of weight is going to be what you have in your URL. So if you are attempting to rank for a certain type of keyword, you want to be known for something in particular, putting what you do in very plain terms or keyword terms can be beneficial. So if you do in fact own Family Lawyer Tuscaloosa, that can be a benefit. Now, that is different than a branded domain where you are going to use your own branding. So, SmithLawFirm.com, something like that. And so this whole practice got started a long time ago where, it was, the SEO is not as developed as it used to be, it was much less developed than it was in the old days as it is today. And so some of these little signals could really drive outsized results for people doing the practice, right? And so at some point, you've probably heard that SEO is all about stuffing the right keywords in your page. And, there used to be a hack for this where people would throw in hundreds of iterations of the keyword that they were going for, but do it in white so they couldn't really be seen on the page. And so for a while, stuff like that worked, right? These little hacks where, they figured out kind of how Google's signal was, what they were prioritizing. And so they'd throw these little hacks out there and it would work for a little while until Google figured it out. And then they would, clap it down. And so this kind of has the feel of one of those hacks, but it's a little bit different. It's in current relevance or current times, this can still actually pack a punch, right? It can be beneficial, but there are some caveats, and so we're going to go into that in the next piece. But there are examples of this working and not working. So let's get into that and break some of these down. If you think a keyword-rich domain alone will put you at the top of Google, think again. Let's go through a couple of the most common misconceptions before we get to situations when keyword-rich domains actually have a value and could be valuable for your law firm. and situations when I would recommend using them. So first misconception around this is that it's going to give you this instant SEO boost, right? And that somehow you can take these domains you've been stacking in your GoDaddy account for a year or two and redirect them or do something behind the scenes, and it's instantly going to blow up the success of your website. And this is just not really true, right? All of these factors that Google uses for their algorithm, they're all weighted, and so we don't know the exact recipe of what they do to come up with their algorithm, but we do know from tons and tons of testing that it's not just one thing. It's a confluence of a number of things. And so when you're thinking about SEO success, you really need to be checking all the boxes. You need to have good content, building authority through link building. You need to have a good technical side of your websites, loading quickly, loading on all devices. So those are the most common pieces of the SEO puzzle that you really need to make sure you're at least doing the basics of those if you want to compete, because coming in and just dropping a keyword rich domain is really not going to do much, especially if you haven't done anything with the other components of SEO success, the off page, on page, and technical aspects. The other big misconception here is that it's a low cost, high value investment. And so sometimes, and this breaks my heart when I hear this, is someone has purchased a domain they've gotten an email, and it's like, hey, we're the owners of dogaccidentlaw.com, and we want to sell it to you for just $1,000 or something like that. And they'll say, oh yeah, you get SEO benefits, stuff like that. This is really the worst case scenario, is if you're spending a sizable amount of money with the understanding or belief that it's somehow going to add to your ability to rank. Now, I know attorneys who have like 50 of these domains or have purchased these in the past, just because they've heard somewhere that this practice is valuable, and just from a basic level of understanding, like a prima facie level of thought process here, that like, well, it can't be a bad thing, right? And so it's got to have some value to it. And so if you want to buy expensive domains, go for it. It's not going to work, right? It's a really more of a pure vanity play. And if you do think that, for instance, your domain is too long, it's got too many names in it, stuff like that, and it's just way more recognizable and easy to remember for your clientele to put in, familylawAtlanta.com, go for it. Absolutely. There is a value with that, right? And so there's not necessarily an SEO value, but from a branding perspective and a simplistic point of view, you're absolutely going to get a value there, because you can put it on your cards. You can, give it to everybody and let people know. And it's much easier than giving them a long domain name that may be difficult for them to remember or come up with, or your last name, things like that. So just don't go into this thinking that you are somehow going to, catapult yourself to the top of the rankings just because you purchased this domain. Now, the one caveat to this is if you are buying an actual website asset. So if you are buying a website that has been online for a while, I would say years, it has content, there's been some link building, different stuff like that. So it's actually done some of that formative SEO work that actually makes a difference when it comes to your ranking. So if it's already done some of this off page, some of the content, all of that stuff, that's very different than just buying a domain itself. Okay. And so the big distinction that I want to draw for you today is that if you were just buying a URL with no history of SEO development on it, that's a very low value activity. That is, you are not going to get any sort of SEO boost or anything like that, at least immediately. So I'm going to go into the other, like when you can actually use this in just a second. So if it does have some value to it, that there's been content, link building, etc., that actually can be beneficial to you, because what you're effectively doing is a merger of another business, right? A merger and acquisition. And so, if that website has that juice, that SEO value, you can redirect it to your website, and you're going to get that juice, right? You have to. There's some rules with it, and you want to do it, carefully and with a strategy in mind. But you are then actually buying an asset, right? That you can combine with yours, where you're going to get some of that value. But the rule I want to always you to remember next time you're thinking about buying a domain is whether or not it has that asset component. Has it been developed before? Because if it hasn't, it's really not worth your time unless you're thinking of it as a very long-term investment that you want to be known as Family Lawyer Phoenix or whatever, and you think it's a good branding play for the long run. But it's not going to give you any sort of short kind of boost with your SEO work. The final misconception is that this is some sort of substitute for quality content and SEO strategy. So basically talked about all this before, is that this is not a replacement for a comprehensive SEO strategy. This is a hack that doesn't really work. It isn't going to give you any sort of tangible benefit by simply redirecting a website that has no links, no content, etc. And so really what you have to be thinking about when it comes to your SEO strategy is a long-term vision. You need to be thinking about building an asset that is going to grow and be improved over time. It's the one asset, maybe YouTube videos as well, but not as valuable in my opinion. It's the one asset that has a compounding value over time. It's the only type of marketing that performs like the stock market, where you're going to have these ebbs and flows during the near term. But if you look at it over the long term and you do these basic elements of writing good content, getting links to your website, improving the visibility, increasing the visibility across the internet, you are going to get compounding value. You are going to have your visibility grow and grow and grow over time, assuming you have just even a basic SEO strategy. You don't even really need a marketing agency for it. You just have to be committed to actually writing and doing some of this work yourself. The work's not going to do itself, but you don't need a highly paid marketing agency to see this benefit. You really can do it by yourself. Now, of course, we can do it a lot better, and if you work with a good SEO agency, they're going to do it way better. But ultimately, you can still have a say or make a positive impact on your SEO performance. Just you. So moving on to our third and final point, when keyword-rich domains can actually be beneficial. So keyword-rich domains are not entirely useless. There's actually a couple of use cases where these can provide a lot of value to you, but you have to do them the right way, or else it's a huge waste of your time, money, and energy. So the first and really primary or only strategy that makes sense if you want a keyword-rich domain is to think about it for the long haul. So I'll give you an example of a client, and this client does criminal law. It's a particular location. They're in a Midwest state, and they have the city name plus criminal defense in their URL. And I believe it is absolutely giving them a beneficial impact on their SEO. So prior to working with us, they were kind of middling around. They didn't really have a big link profile. They had some content, yet they had gotten a couple of really good positions that were in line with their city plus criminal defense lawyer on their in terms of the ranking for their website. And so why does this work as opposed to just buying a domain online and kind of stacking them and doing a redirect? The answer to this is all about building the asset, right? Building your website and doing it for a long time. So if you want to use a keyword rich domain, just be prepared to utilize it for the long haul. It's not a quick fix, but remember what I said in the first part of this is that it is a ranking factor. There is some weight given to this by Google when they see, they're crawling your website and looking for, hey, what was this website all about, right? They're going to look at the URL. And that is a big piece of it, because if they're looking at your URL and they see that it is specifically tailored to one type of service, right, in a specific location, they're going to think, well, this person dedicated the entire URL to this thing. They must be taking it pretty seriously, or that must be a really big focus of this website. Because when Google crawls your website, they're not looking at it like you or me. They're looking at it from a code perspective, right? Their crawler is going and essentially reading the text and kind of seeing how all of these elements are, what is in all of these elements, like the URL, the site title, all of that stuff. And so if they get there and it's all about DesMoinesCriminalLawyer.com, it's going to basically write down in their big knowledge graph that, hey, this website's kind of primary thing, or what we know this website to be about, is criminal law in the Des Moines area or whatever city they're after. And so he uses a different name for his business. So his business is not, Des Moines Criminal Lawyer, but he has been able to, I think, get a lot of benefit from this. But again, it's because he's done this for the long haul. So when we started working on this domain, it wasn't surprising to me that when we added a big new chunk of content to the website, got his citations cleaned up, added a bunch of links, it really started to take off. And so we were able to double the traffic of this client's website in about 2 months. And now I think the benefit that it was getting from a keyword rich domain is just being further strengthened and further compounding, because that's the type of content we're writing for. We're writing specifically for this main topic. And so it's all kind of, fitting together and meshing together in terms of how Google thinks about the website and what it should be known for and how it should be in those search rankings. So if you can do it, I say go for it. But be prepared to treat it like you would your regular website, right? It's not a hack. It's not going to be done quickly. You need to be prepared for the long haul to have that actual name. So we also get into situations where somebody's thinking about a new practice area and they go out and buy a domain and they say, look, we want, we're doing family law, but we also want to do estate planning. I bought this other website and let's start building a website there. Cause I got this really good domain, estate planning, Omaha.com or something like that. And, this goes back to the problem of trying to use this as a hack where you're expecting some sort of outside benefit for this by just simply standing up the website. And the reality is it's hard enough to coalesce visibility, get rankings for your website, and convert that into traffic and ultimately business with just one website. So the idea of trying to then do that for two and starting from scratch with this new website, you have a large hill to climb because you need to build links, you need to put content, you need to effectively build your timeline up with Google so that it knows, trusts, and likes your website enough to put it in the search rankings. So same rules effectively go here, that it's okay if you want to stand up this new website, but you really need to be prepared to do it for the long haul, right? It's going to require its own SEO campaign effectively. And so the idea of just sprinkling a few articles there and thinking it's going to rank is not practical, because you're not taking into account the fact that there's plenty of other competitors out there who that's their only focus, right? And they're driving hard just on the estate planning side. And ultimately, there's no way you can compete with somebody who that's their single priority and they really want to win there. So in a case like that, I would always recommend continuing to build your website as a single entity, unless you have separate budget. You really want to build that as a separate brand and a separate entity. And so if you're known very heavily already for criminal law, and now you want to kind of stand up a new practice like PI or immigration or something like that, and you don't really want to tie it to your existing practice, but you want to do it up, yeah, absolutely set that up as a different website, but just be prepared that this is going to be a challenge, and you've got some things to do in order to really get the value out of it that you're looking for and get the results that you want. The final situation where this can make sense is going back to what I talked about earlier in terms of buying a domain that actually has some history to it. So with history, I'm talking about it has a timeline, has a footprint. It's been there for a while. It's not been spammed out. So often when domains get expired, they get purchased by nefarious groups who are going to spam these out to try and sell like sunglasses and weird stuff, and just weird things happen to it, and try to capture some of the link juice from these websites. So if you are presented with an opportunity to buy a keyword-rich domain, and there's some element of, hey, this is going to be an SEO play, go into one of the SEO tools like Ahrefs or Moz or SEMrush, any one of those. Send it to us. We'll look at it, give you a quick synopsis of whether there's any SEO value to it, and whether it's clean. It's a clean domain, hasn't been spammed out, and is going to help or hurt your SEO efforts. Absolutely, go look for it, check it out, and there can again be value, but it still has to fit all of the things that I've talked about earlier as far as a long-term play, or it's a branding play that you just want something that's easier, a little bit cleaner, and easier to talk about. But those don't come along too often, and if you're not kind of a seasoned SEO person or have a handle on that, I think it's going to be not really worth your time, to be honest. And kind of all of this time and energy and focus that's spent looking for this one very niche kind of hack is ultimately just really a drag on where you could be focusing all of your mental energy, financial resources, and everything else. You could be focusing on just pushing out good content, building links, doing it the slow and methodical way, rather than trying it. It is very much a tortoise versus the hare kind of situation here, where you really just need to stay the course. And I know that's often challenging for lawyers, because when you deal with SEO agencies that are not great or not good in terms of transparent, you're probably going to get bad results, or you have gotten bad results before, and feel really upset about it, that hey, these people promised me a lot and then the results weren't there. And so that's either because they're just ineffective, they did a bad job forecasting, they were too optimistic, and then sometimes these people are just slimy and not going to give you, they're just going to really take your money, and don't really have an intention of doing it. I think most SEO agencies I've seen from when we get people is that they do have good intentions. I just don't think that they don't really understand the competitive nature of the law firm market. And so they have some positive results, but they are not built to compete at the highest level. So, unfortunately, that often gives marketers a bad view. But just remember, like, all of the basics are really key here. And if you do those and make sure that you're adding new content every month, and it's valuable, we're talking about all of the different components of your practice area, your city, your location, where you want to get those clients from, you will, ultimately you're moving towards an arc that will ultimately reward you in a really big way. If you're thinking about buying one of these domains, just remember there are pros and cons. Think through your specific application and make sure it fits with the type of scenarios that will actually produce results for you. Because if not, you're just taking away focus, energy, and resources from the real SEO strategies that actually move the needle. So, unless you have one of those really good specific scenarios where buying a keyword rich domain can be effective, I would suggest just focus on the basics, focus on these strategies that are more going to be better as part of a comprehensive SEO strategy like content writing, link building, and technical SEO. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Optimized Law Firm podcast. I'm here to answer any questions. You can reach me, Patrick, at goconstellation.com. I love talking shop. I promise I won't pitch you. Really just like helping. So if you have a question about a domain you're thinking about buying, we can do some of that back end SEO analysis and give you an idea of whether it's worth the valuation people are asking, or if it can help in your specific situation. So thanks for listening, and keep it real.